we both watched La Bamba, the movie about Ritchie Valens starring Lou Bega. Not Lou Bega. What was his name?
What is it?
Who is Lou Bega? Lou Bega is the fucking...
Lou Bega's
Mambo number 5. Yeah. Lou Diamond Phillips. Why did I say Lou Bega? Oh my God, that's so good.
I don't know.
Yeah, starring Lou Bega.
Welcome back to Asinine Radio, a weekly podcast where we talk about music, and, well, that's pretty much it. So, let's go!
This is Asinine Radio. This is the weekly music podcast where every week we get into a different album from a different artist, band, whatever. And we break down that album. We find out all the secrets. We do all the legwork so you guys don't have to. You just have to listen to the pod and enjoy yourselves.
Lazy fucks.
Yeah, you motherfuckers. So while you're listening, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, give us 5 stars. Please go do that. Follow us on the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Asinine Radio. We have a Discord server if you want to join that. Let us know. We'll send you the link. You can join us, talk shit on each other, on us, even if you want to. You can also we have a phone number. You can call us, leave us a voicemail, send us a text message. The phone number is 503-893-5307. Also, because we're not doing an album rankings this week, we're actually going to start this with our 6 Degrees of Tom DeLonge. So if you don't know what that is, it's where we connect the artist of the week to Tom DeLonge in some weird way. So let's start with you, Jeff. Or no, I guess you only have one.
You have 2, so you should start.
Yeah, so I'll start with mine. Okay, so this one kind of is this one took me a little while, but we're gonna start with Ritchie Valens. His song "Framed" was actually written by 2 guys named Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. Donald Fagen from Steely Dan also covered one of their songs called "Ruby Baby." Donald Fagen has a song called "True Companion," which was on the Heavy Metal movie soundtrack. Devo was also on that soundtrack with their song "Working in the Coal Mine," and Josh Freese is in Devo, and then Josh Freese to Blink 182 to Tom DeLonge. So that's my first 6 Degrees of Tom DeLonge, and that one actually took me a while. That was a tough one. So
okay,
what do you got for yours?
This one took me like 4 minutes. And Ritchie Valens went to San Fernando High School.
Okay.
In Los Angeles County. That's the same high school George Lopez went to.
Oh.
The iconic guy. George Lopez is pretty funny.
He's fine.
I like George Lopez. I love him, but I like George Lopez. George Lopez had his own show called The George Lopez Show. And one of the guest stars in the show was Ashley Tisdale. Ashley Tisdale had worked with super producer John Feldman.
Yes.
And John Feldman was, the creative control over Blink-182, the same band Tom was in. So there you go.
Yeah, he wrote 2 Blink-182 albums. All right, so my other one, we start with Ritchie Valens, obviously. He had a song, also the same song, "Framed," that was written by Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. Same song. There was a rendition of this particular song from on the Cheech and Chong movie Up in Smoke during the whole when they're in court and they're talking about the judge. So it's their own rendition of the song. Cheech Marin was on the Korn album Follow the Leader. He did a version of "Earache My Eye" with them. He sang the vocals on it, and Feldy has co-written a song with Korn off one of their newer records, and then Feldy to Blink to Tom. So there you go. Easy peasy. That last one came to me instantly once I remembered that song was in Cheech and Chong. I was like, oh, okay, this is easy.
Wow, okay, yeah.
So there you go. That's our 6 Degrees of Tom DeLonge. Let's just jump right into our album of the week. So what are we doing this week, Jeff? Go.
We are doing Ritchie Valens' album, Ritchie Valens.
what is your origin story with Ritchie Valens?
Go. So, like, La Bamba is my origin story. Just as a kid, I mean, I grew up in a very Hispanic area. Half my family's Hispanic, so I've heard La Bamba so many fucking times. I don't like the song. I really just don't. I think it's cheesy. I think Ritchie Valens' version is actually pretty trash. I think it's terrible. I don't like it. And I've heard it goddamn 1,000 times. So, like, growing up, listening to La Bamba, I've hated it for so many years. Fast forward to college and FJC. This is like 2006. I took a history of rock and roll class with a friend of the pod, Brian, and our teacher played the saxophone. So it was really cool because he would play all these like old songs and kind of like throw in like his little saxophone solos into it. And it was a fun class, and it gave me like a restart essentially on rock and roll music circa like 50s, and then also Ritchie Valens. And that's when I heard like Oh Donna and Come On Let's Go. And so I was blown away. And then ever since like really college, I've just had this fascination, which is Ritchie Valens and like 50s rock and roll. It also kind of stems back too from working at Knott's Berry Farm, like I worked on the boardwalk is what they called it. It was a throwback to like 50s era. So we played a lot of Ritchie Valens, a lot of Big Bopper, a lot of Buddy Holly, Eddie Cochran, these old guys. I listened to a lot of them. And so there's a lot of nostalgia involved with this, but Ritchie Valens is a guy that I never really cared about because I cannot stand La Bamba.
I'm surprised.
I'm
really fucking surprised.
It's annoying. I can play on the guitar and I know the fucking words, and I sang it for extra credit in my junior year of high school, and I can't do it. Hate it.
All right, so that's your origin story with Ritchie. My origin story is also the song La Bamba. I don't remember the first time I heard it, but it had to have been on some TV show, movie, or something. I don't even know. I didn't see the actual biopic until after even high school, so I know it definitely wasn't from that. But yeah, I have no recollection of ever hearing him for the first time. But I know I was a kid, and it was La Bamba, so that's kind of why we play it. I don't think it's. I think it's a good song. I'm not a hater like you. But yeah, it's a solid song. So that's kind of my origin story with it. So let's get into this record. I mean, we're going to dive deep not only into this record, but his very short career, the plane crash that he died in, and just kind of rock and roll, and a little bit of rock and roll in general. I'm not huge on the whole thing, so you might have to fill in some gaps for me. But yeah, so let's get our initial thoughts on this record, and then if we have any stinkers, and then we'll go with our bangers. So what do you got, Jeff? Go.
Yeah, I mean, I will say like as far as rock and roll goes, we're only going to go to like 1960. So this will be a good, because I watched a lot of documentaries this week, and I listened to a lot of, not just Valens, but I listened to a lot of 50s rock and roll, and I have a lot of 50s rock and roll, and I love that era of rock and roll, and I love the concept of rock and roll in the 50s. And so like we'll keep it to the 50s here. But I do have this album. I have this album on the vinyls. I have a 1959 pressing of this album. It's a mono pressing. It's an OG pressing. I do. Yeah.
No shit. I didn't know that.
I got this super early on. The jackets beat the shit. The record plays fantastic. Very minimal surface noise. Plays through and through. And
wow.
This is probably like my top 10 favorite records that I own. I think this was in my year-end list when we first started doing the vinyl thing. This was one of my favorite records that I picked up. But this is for sure is in like my top 10 favorite vinyls that I own, just because it's an original pressing, and it has the first song, That's My Little Susie. It's misnamed as I don't have it in front of me, but it's misnamed as something else. I got a girl named Sue. I think it's called I Got a Girl Named Sue.
That sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah. So it's just really cool, and I'm really happy about it, and it's cool. So given that, I don't think that my first impression of this album, I don't have any stinkers. La Bamba is the closest I have to a stinker, because I really don't like that song. I think it's cheesy. I think it's a complete exploitation of Ritchie Valens. He doesn't speak Spanish. He spoke very little, if any, Spanish. His family didn't really speak a lot of Spanish. And so to kind of not force him, but to encourage him to sing a Spanish song to kind of build up the Hispanic part of him, I think is one thing. It's a little exploitative.
Yeah, exploitative.
Exploitative?
I think that's a word, right?
I feel like they exploited Ritchie Valens. Specifically his manager. I feel like they exploited him a little bit to kind of get that full-on Hispanic heritage, while also kind of getting rid of Richard Valenzuela, but calling him Ritchie Valens. So it's like you want him to be appealing to the masses, but then you change his name to a more like white person-friendly name, but then make him sing La Bamba. I think it's just all gross and shitty.
A little backwards.
It's stupid. So La Bamba, honestly, that's the closest I have to a stinker, and it's fucking close. I really cannot stand that song, like at all.
All right. So obviously we're gonna get into this song first since we already played it. But my initial thoughts, real quick. I think this is a really fantastic record as well. I have no stinkers. There's one okay song, but otherwise they're all bangers. And I have this one on vinyl as well, but mine is a repress. It's a new repress from a couple years ago, but I would love to have an OG pressing of this. That would be super fucking rad. But otherwise, yeah, I really enjoy this record. No stinkers, and let's just get right into it. Let's start with La Bamba, since we already played it, and arguably it is his biggest hit. It truly is his biggest hit. So where does this sit for you on the banger list?
Hold on, it's the worst one. Hold on.
So you're very far away since you're probably getting a beer.
I'm coming right now. I'm here. There
All
it
right.
is. All right. Yeah, because I had to grab it because I couldn't remember what the fucking name was. Yeah, so the first track's supposed to be, fuck, no, I just deleted it. I can look at my notes on my computer, actually, on my new MacBook that I have.
Mm-hmm.
The first track's supposed to be my little Susie, and on the original vinyl, it says, I got a gal named Sue. And so that's how you... That's how you can tell it's an original pressing, is that misprint. And then also the label. The label is a certain color of like sea foam green with like circular things on it. And so it's just, I don't know. It's a cool little piece that I owned. And I don't know, it's not worth like that much money. Like a good condition of this, you can probably get for like $40-$50. But
it's not
like
terrible.
I got it from somebody's like closet that was just giving away vinyl. And I was like, holy fuck, this is really cool. Like this. Can I have this? Yeah, you can have it. I'm never going to listen to it. So that was cool.
They just bought it probably all just casually back in 1959.
Yeah. But yeah, La Bamba. Let's get into La Bamba and just how.
Yeah. So this sits on your.
Is.
This is your 12B, right?
No, this is not a B. This is an okay song. It's close to a stinker. It really is. I really cannot stand this song.
I mean, this is my 4B.
Oh man.
I think this is still a really good song. I don't know why you hate it so much. I think it's just because it's been overplayed for you, but it's still a really fucking excellent song.
I think there's like we both watched La Bamba, the movie about Ritchie Valens starring Lou Bega. Not Lou Bega. What was his name?
What is it?
Who is Lou Bega? Lou Bega is the fucking
Lou Bega's
Mambo number 5. Yeah. Lou Diamond Phillips. Why did I say Lou Bega? Oh
I don't
my
know.
God, that's so good.
I don't know.
Yeah, starring Lou Bega. That would be funny. Yeah, so Los Lobos did a version of it for the La Bamba movie, and it's a lot better. I mean, given Los Lobos are a better band than Ritchie Valens was, they've had way more time to perfect their craft. But the La Bamba song by Ritchie Valens, I think it's, like that thing I do about dogs like begging for a treat, like you put your hands up like a dog, like this. Oh, like in Wedding Crashers when the seal, and he pulls his tie to the side, like that. That's this fucking song, dude. It's just like, it's pandering, it's gross, it's not good.
Oh man.
It showcases a little bit of Ritchie's guitar playing, which is actually really good. Like, he's a fantastic guitar player.
He is. He really is.
Being just like 17 and of this era, like he's a really good guitar player. It's just I think La Bamba is you're exploiting like the Hispanic culture, and it's I understand it from a monetary standpoint. I get it. You want that vote, you want that demographic to follow you, but fuck, man, it's just so stupid.
I mean, the movie, because I watched the movie just this morning, and in that it shows that Ritchie was the one who wanted to sing it in Spanish, but the producer Bob, I mean, yeah, that's not how it's told, like in history books or whatever. But in the movie, it is Ritchie who wants to do it in Spanish,
right?
But I don't know.
And like another thing with the movie that we're getting into everything Ritchie Valens, I guess. But another thing about the movie is the guy that plays Bob Keane or Robert Kuhn, whatever his name is. That guy that I forgot what his name is, but he always plays like an unscrupulous character in every movie I've seen him in. He's always a bad guy. And
he's in Sopranos. He plays Ralphie in The Sopranos.
That's right. But also he played
he's like a terrible character in that.
He was in The Matrix, and he was the guy that like betrayed everybody in The Matrix. So
that's right. He was.
Just seeing him in the movie as Robert Kuhn, Bob Keane, it's just like, damn, dude, like why did you pick that dude? So I don't know.
But he's a good actor. I mean, he is a good actor. I mean, he was great in Bad Boys, in all the Bad Boys movies. I just watched those in the last 6 months.
No, that's true. That's true.
And he was the chief, police chief.
Yeah, he was kind of a douchebag, but no, he was fine.
But he was funny. Like he was a little endearing.
And to be fair, he's probably played in like 70 movies, and I've only seen him in 4. And the 4 that I just happened to watch, he's a bad guy.
It's funny you say that because it says that he's been in over 150.
Oh my god!
150 television shows, movies, and theatrical performances.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it says. I mean, I read that earlier today. I'm not looking at it right now, but that's what I read earlier today. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I'm. I think I know. I don't know. I truly believe that the La Bamba song is something Ritchie Valens, because he grew up in like that area of like Pacoima,
grew up in the San Fernando
Los
Valley,
Angeles. Yeah, a very Hispanic area, very very blue collar, very hardworking. And he grew up listening to like Hispanic mariachi music, banda music. So he's heard this song, 1,000 times for sure. But for him to press it, I don't think that, because there's nothing else in his like repertoire that even come close to sounding like La Bamba. La Bamba.
But also, he was only recording music for 8 months before he died.
I know.
So it's hard to kind of believe certain stories because he was around for such a small amount of time.
Yeah,
but
and
he
dead,
was
so. Like,
but and he was such an influential person to other musicians. I mean, a lot of people say he was the first one to mix rock and roll. I mean, he was the first person to mix rock and roll with Spanish, and the Hispanic culture and. What is like the first like Chicano rock artist of all time.
Yeah.
The first Chicano musician that was able to cross over into mainstream. And a lot of people have cited him as like, huge influence just because of that. Not necessarily his songs or his guitar playing, just the fact of who he was.
Yes.
And wildly influential.
And that's like something that we can appreciate, because I mean, arguably we wouldn't have Santana, we wouldn't have these other like Hispanic driven groups had it not been for Ritchie Valens. We just it could possibly not have been a thing, and so
it's something very different than what we have now.
Like I get it, I like it, I think it's great, but I still don't have to like La Bamba because I don't, and I don't fucking care.
And I mean, it is a traditional song, but he kind of made it his own in a way. And kind of from what I was reading, it came from the Veracruz region of Mexico. And I think it said the first time it was ever recorded was in the 1930s.
Yeah.
And then some people have claimed like it came out of the jungle. It came from the jungle, and like they've tried to like make it this like mythic thing. And but yeah, the first recording of it was in the 1930s.
Yeah, I mean, like Veracruz, it's super south Mexico. That's like south.
I didn't look it up to see how far away
it's almost as south as you can get without it like curving back, because like Mexico curves back up north into the Gulf. Yeah. So it's almost as south as you can possibly get in Mexico. So it's like it's like Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not whitewashed at all, I'm sure.
No, it is
West,
so
like,
fun.
yeah.
We're almost in South America at that point.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, we already played it. I mean, lyrically, there's nothing here really lyrically.
I mean, I will preface this whole
It's
thing
just a
by
dance
saying
song.
there's not a lot here lyrically with any of these songs.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're
This
totally
is
right.
this is the 50s. We're still coming into our own of rock and roll. We don't know. This is all uncharted territory. So there's not a lot here lyrically with any of these songs.
And I mean, when you think about it too, I mean, Valens wrote. I mean, out of the 12 songs, he wrote, I think 7 of them. Out of the 12, the other ones were covers essentially. But out of those 6 or 7 that he did write, I mean, when you think about it, he was 16, 17 when he wrote these songs. So they're not going to be very deep. They're going to be about what every 16, 17-year-old kid thinks about at the time, and that's girls and falling in love. And, you know, that's all that was going on back then in the 50s.
And I asked, like, out of the, you're right, I think it was like 6 or 7 of them out of the 12 he wrote himself. Is that a lot? Is that not enough? Or is that as much as you'd expect?
I think that's a lot for...
I do too. I think it's a lot.
Because of the quality of the songs.
Yes.
On top of how quickly they were written. Because I think some of them were written prior to him going into the studio with Bob. But then from what I was reading too, he did write... I mean, obviously a couple of the songs Bob has co-writing credits. So I would imagine at least a few of them were written prior to him going into the studio. But still, you know, it's such a small amount of time.
Like the movie kind of makes it seem that he has ideas before he hooked up with Bob, but then after that, like Bob really helped him flesh out all the songs, which I agree to some point. But the fact that like Ritchie had been playing guitar off and on and goofing off with songs when he was a kid, I feel like he had a lot of songs written prior to his meeting with Bob.
Yeah, I mean, and also when you think about like reading more about him too, he was left-handed, but he forced himself to learn to play right-handed on the guitar because at the time there's no such thing as a left-handed guitar. They just didn't exist.
That's all he could afford too. Like his family's not going to buy him another guitar.
So he forced himself to learn right-handed, which is already a very difficult thing to do. I mean, that's insane. And on top of that, he taught himself how to play the drums as well, just because he was so driven as a kid. And when he was in middle school, he would bring his guitar to school every day and just play music for his friends and just sing and just have a good time with his friends and peers. So, yeah, it started at a very, very young age. I can't believe it. Just still boggles my mind how tragically cut short his life was.
And that's the reason why. I think that's the main reason why he will live in like infamy forever because of that. Because like honestly, like if I'm going to be as objective as I possibly can, there's only a handful of songs here that are truly iconic rock and roll songs of the 50s. Everything else is just more covers of the same things, the same type of things we've heard over and over and over. Specifically, like the second half of this album is all covers, and it's covers. It's covers of songs that we've already heard like numerous times, and so there's nothing inherently like unique about this other than the fact that he was super super young and he was like Hispanic, and so I think that had he not died, and this is just like, who gives a fuck what this even means? But had he not died, he could have had a very prolific, fantastic career, or he could have faded out into obscurity, just like a lot of the other 50s rock and rollers. So I think because he died early on, he cemented himself in the upper echelon of 50s rockers.
True. Yeah. And watching the movie too, it kind of reinforced that fact in my mind as well. Like, obviously it's a movie, so a lot of stuff is dramatized. It's more exaggerated than real life, and I don't know. I feel like people just think of him too highly. Not to say he's not talented or anything in that sense, but yeah, there's definitely just like a nostalgia with him and just, I don't know, sadness, and
yeah,
that's really what it is.
Honestly, like I do think of him very highly, and that's just because he was doing something for 50 and the dude, like without even, we even got into like the rock and roll history or anything, but like rock and roll is inherently like counterculture. And that's just what rock and roll is. It should be. It has started off as, and that's what I love so much about like rock music, is that it is kind of inherently counterculture. And Ritchie Valens is this little, this fucking 14, 15-year-old Chicano dude from like Los Angeles. Like nobody knows who the fuck he is. And rock and roll is like, he wasn't like a pioneer of rock and roll by any means. Rock and roll had been around for Fats Domino's doing the 40s. So we're talking almost a decade later. Ritchie Valens comes up. There's nothing really spectacular about him. Yeah, he's a fantastic guitarist, but Buddy Holly was a way better guitarist. Ripped it up way harder than Ritchie Valens did. But Ritchie Valens is just another facet of rock and roll, another facet of that perfect diamond that made 50s rock and roll so goddamn anti-establishment. It's so punk. It really was. Like 50s rock and roll was so fucking punk.
Yeah, they just didn't give a shit. They just did whatever they wanted, and also it's just like I think it's also the mystery of his career. Like it's people wondering, like, could he have been? He could have been the greatest, but we'll never know. Like that's also the mystique too. Like we'll never know how great he could have been because we only know the handful of songs that he actually recorded or even wrote, for that matter. I don't know, but I agree with you. Rock and roll of the 50s was very, very punk minded, I guess you could say. That's the best way to put it.
We're talking like post World War II, right?
Yeah.
People are still reeling. We're still recovering. It's barely 5 years later, the 50s hit. And then now we get, I mean, like, who knows when rock and roll really started, but like Fats Domino, like I kind of consider like the earliest rock, because he was like late 40s. But like Bill Haley, in the comments. It was just like Rock Around the Clock Tonight. Like these are songs that were kind of like the first of rock and roll in the early to mid 50s. And like the movie, I guess we're getting into the history of rock and roll now. You ready for this?
I mean, you know a little bit more than I do of this era.
Yeah.
So you know a little bit more. So yeah, help me out.
So the movie Blackboard Jungle, this was a movie in the mid 50s. And this was like the first time that the mainstream media had used the term rock and roll. And the movie had Rock Around the Clock Tonight, which I think was the first Billboard charting rock and roll song. And that was like 53-ish, 54. And then this movie Blackboard Jungle had that song in it. And this movie like caused fucking riots. And it wasn't just because of the rock and roll aspect. It was also notable because it had a mixed race of cast. Like the lead guy was a fucking black dude. Now we're talking early 50s now. We have a mixed race of cast, and then we also have a very aggressive sounding like style of music. Like this is straight counterculture. This is what rock and roll is about by nature. It's about just going against the grain, turning things on its head. And that's what made 50s rock and roll so goddamn good, is because even though I don't like his music in any capacity, but like Elvis is a guy who I mean,
right place, right time,
just
knowing the right people.
But the guy grew up in like the South, and he grew up going to like black churches, and he got all of that kind of culture, and he soaked it all up. And because he had a shark for a manager is the reason why he blew up. And Elvis essentially, I mean, he's kind of like the king of rock and roll because he brought rock and roll to the mainstream. He brought rock and roll to the world mass. He brought rock and roll to white people in a way that was acceptable because
he was marketed well.
Because he was so counterculture. It was like laughable because people love to hate things, and there was no better person to hate than Elvis.
Yeah, by the older generations for sure.
But that was already 56, dude, 57 by the time Elvis was making music. I mean, we're talking rock and roll. Like, again, like Fats Domino, like Blueberry Hill. Ain't that a shame?
Well, even Little Richard was doing it before Elvis was.
Little Richard was like 55-ish. And then Chuck Berry was like 56. Like Chuck Berry and Elvis came out kind of like the same time. See, Chuck Berry was a little different, though, because Chuck Berry invented like the rock star. Like no one moved like Chuck Berry. Little Richard did kind of but he was stuck behind a piano. He couldn't really move around that much.
Yeah, that's true.
And like even Little Richard, like my God, dude, the guy was like, who knows? Was he gay? Was he not gay? Was he bi? Was he straight? Like he prided himself on every single decade. He would say something different. and it's just like the guy was just a fireball of excitement, and like that
it was unreal.
like these are all like black people that have been doing like rock and roll, and then we get white people that do rock and roll, and that's why Ritchie Valens like lives up to that hype, is because he's a Mexican dude. And like my favorite rock and roll song of all time is "Come On, Let's Go." Like that's my 1B. That is my favorite fucking rock and roll song of all time. I think that is the best rock and roll song that has ever been. It is so goddamn good. It is perfect. It perfectly captures like not just like the era of rock and roll in the 50s by its sound, but also just like, dude, let's just go. Let's get away from this shit. Let's be better. And it's just like a 17-year-old writing a song about a girl that he likes. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
And like the way he starts off with the hey, and then drops into it. My God. Come on.
It's really good. And even this song, this is my 5B, by the way. It has that common Chuck Berry guitar riff, that it's that low high thing that Chuck Berry just pretty much created, in rock and roll. I feel or at least he popularized it to the masses, but at least that beginning part is so Chuck Berry. Yeah. I think this is a fantastic song. I mean, that guitar solo.
Your fucking 5B. That is insane.
We'll talk about it. But the guitar solo in this one too, it's so simple. It's short. It's perfect. His guitar lead is it's impeccable, and his tone, forget about it.
I know his
guitar tone on this
so
entire record.
Warm. It was gritty.
It's so
it was
clean,
dirty.
Well, only during certain times though. But he had that. He was able to find sometimes that perfect amount of reverb to throw onto that clean tone, and it sounded so good. But yeah, some songs were pretty damn gritty, for sure. Damn, man. It's a banger.
5B, though.
That is my 5B, yeah. Let's play a little bit of Come On, Let's Go, and then we'll get more into that, and then probably fight with each other some more. So
I'm going to.
Here's Come On, Let's Go from Ritchie Valens. There you go. Come On, Let's Go from Ritchie Valens. That chorus, I mean, it is very, very catchy, but having it being my 5B doesn't mean it's bad at all. I think it's truly a perfect song, especially in rock and roll. It's truly great, and considering, like we said, his age and when he wrote this song, it's remarkable. It really is. I have nothing negative to say about this. It's just some songs resonated a little more than others. I mean, I think, like I said, La Bamba is my number 4, so it's higher than this, but it's only because
that was a deep breath, so I don't explode my fucking brain outside of my ears.
Just La Bamba is just so iconic, and you can't help. I mean, for me at least, I can't help but love that song. I know you hate it, but whatever.
It is like very interesting. Just honestly, God, La Bamba is so close to being a stinker. It really is.
I mean, it's definitely not his best, but I understand why people fucking love it. It totally makes sense why people love this song. It's upbeat, it's fast, it's catchy, it's different. There's nothing of this era that sounds like La Bamba. It's very unique in itself.
I guess it's like a little selfish of me to say that I hate La Bamba, because the reason I hate La Bamba is because I think that if I said, hey, like, do you know who Ritchie Valens is, to somebody in casual conversation, as if that would ever come up, and they're like, oh yeah, he sings La Bamba.
That's true.
And I was like, yeah, he did do La Bamba. Like, do you know anything else? I imagine them always 100% saying, no, I don't know anything else. And that's why I hate La Bamba. Because that's not for real. Like, that's not what he's about at all. Like, if you were to play one song for somebody to like perfectly encapsulate what Ritchie Valens is about, it's not La Bamba at all.
Yeah, it's true.
It would be Oh Donna, or be Donna.
Yeah,
it should be Come On, Let's Go, but it would be Donna. Like,
it'd be Donna for sure.
Yeah, which is probably
because I think that song perfectly, captures everything that he's about.
Yes,
it really does. But Come On, Let's Go. I do love this song. I think it's a fantastic song. He does some really cool thing with his vocal melodies that I feel like you didn't hear a lot of in rock and roll. Like he does this like weird swell in his voice in some songs.
Yeah,
that you don't hear, and to me at least, I mean, I I'm no expert in 50s rock and roll, but I just haven't heard it that much. But Valens fucking kills it.
There's a couple things that he does in Come On, Let's Go. One, or I guess three things. One, like you said, yeah, there is a lot of that swell, that coming up and doing like that thing. And then like the yelling, the hey, like letting that play out. He's just like, how long can he go? He can go for fucking days if he wants to. I'll still listen. I don't care. And then like the low parts, he goes low, like in the chorus and stuff. He gets really, really low in his voice. Like he goes like down like, 2-3 octaves. Like he's got quite a range on him. Granted, he's fucking 17 and he hasn't really quite come into his manly physique probably, because he seemed like a big kid. Like watching videos and stuff, he seemed like a big stocky like Mexican dude from San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, he wasn't like a. I feel like he wouldn't have been like an Elvis. He wasn't. He didn't have the looks to be like an Elvis.
I mean,
or even a Buddy Holly who wasn't like a.
Not to like dog him or nothing, but like everything I've seen, he's fucking ugly.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah,
it was like an ugly.
I was trying to be
dude.
Nice about it. I was trying to be nice about it,
dude,
but yeah,
not attractive at all.
He's not he wasn't a heartthrob. That's for sure. But I mean, but it's so funny because like him in real life, he wasn't a heartthrob, but then the guy who plays him in the movie, he's he's a good looking guy. Yeah. Lou Bega. He's a good looking guy, but yeah, Ritchie Valens, yeah, he was not a looker.
Well, he was, maybe he was just in that awkward 17-year-old phase when he was like 23. Maybe he come into like this nice, I don't know.
That's true, yeah.
Like Ricky Martin looking guy,
True, yeah. It makes me wonder too, like, I mean, he was a very good guitar player at this age, at this time period, pre-YouTube and all that kind of shit. Imagine like give him like if he didn't die in the crash, if you given him like 10 years, how much better of a guitarist he could have been.
Yeah.
Like just based off of this, he could have been truly a legendary guitar player had he been given more time. Because he had the talent, man. He truly had the fucking talent.
So like let's get into your top B, and then I'll get into why he was a great musician also outside of just guitar.
Okay, my one B is Donna.
Okay,
Donna. I mean, this song, it is the perfect for me. This is if you think of the 1950s music, you think of this song. I mean, this song to me, it just has that slow dance, that kind of just romantic feel to it, and then understanding too, like we said, he was so fucking young, and you write this song. What 16-year-old kid writes this song? 17-year-old kid writes this song. I mean, he kind of sings it in a lower register. It's just, it's for lack of a better word, it's a pretty song. It's a beautiful sounding song. And it's so perfect for this era.
This is the other side of rock and roll here, because rock and roll essentially would not exist without rhythm and blues, without doo-wop, without spirituals and gospel music and blues, but like rhythm and blues and doo-wop music. And that's what this song is. This song is a rock and roll song that takes heavily from doo-wop and rhythm and blues music. And that's the other side of the 50s rock and roll. And that's why, I don't know, that's why this song is really, really good, is because doo-wop music and rhythm and blues from the 40s and above is so goddamn perfect. It's so great. And it's a natural progression to add drums, to add a more aggressive guitar tone, and to play a little bit faster. So that's where we're at with rock and roll. But Donna is just... it's just such a perfect like trifecta of sound, of like instrumentation, and just of a 17-year-old, probably 16 or 15 at the time, writing a song in high school about a girl he likes.
Yeah,
like come on.
I mean, the movie makes it seem like they were just completely in love, and it was way more dramatic than that. But I'm sure in real life it was nothing like that.
No, it was probably like 3 weeks. That's it.
Yeah, if that, fucking that.
No, yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, imagine being, what is it, Donna Ludwig? Isn't that her name?
Yeah.
I may have it wrong. But yeah, okay, so Donna Ludwig. Can you imagine, this guy wrote this song for you, and literally it's one of, to me, I feel like this song is one of the, it's such an iconic song. Like when you hear it, you instantly know it. Like you've heard it somewhere at least 20 times. It's so ingrained in our culture that like in movies and and in TV and everything, that you just know it. And can you imagine being Donna Ludwig and just hearing it all the time, knowing that this song is about you? It's pretty crazy.
I mean, it's just
like you go your entire life hearing this song and knowing it's about you. That's fucking wild.
So like from what I know about Donna and her relationship with Ritchie, it was much like you'd expect from a 50s white girl dating like a Mexican dude. Like her parents did not approve of it. It was not good. And so it was, I don't think it was as romantic and they were as close as the movie portrayed them to be, but I can't imagine like the feeling she had after seeing like the plane go down and realizing like this guy because he never really moved on. Like she kind of probably moved on for whatever, but I don't think like he ever did because he never got the chance. And so I can't imagine like what she felt like. He
essentially like dropped out of school to go on tour with Buddy Holly.
Which exactly,
nuts.
which is like, okay, so was Ritchie Valens like the love of Donna's life? Like, no, like she was 15 and she moved on. But like, was Donna Ritchie Valens the love of Ritchie Valens' life? Probably, because he died super early and he didn't know anything else. So I think having that type of weight on your shoulders probably like destroyed her for so many years.
Yeah, it might have. It really might have. But I mean, also, and coming back to the actual song musically, it's a very stripped down, basic song. I mean, the clean guitar tone is just absolutely perfect to go along with his vocals, and there's this harmony behind his vocal line. I'm not sure if it's like a vocal harmony or if it's like an organ. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like what is that?
I think it's just a backing band that probably Bob had in the Delphi catalog, or actually no, I think it's safe to assume it's probably just a backing vocal group that he had in the Delphi catalog. That's what I think.
Because I couldn't subtle. Figure out. Yeah, it's so subtle that to the point where I wasn't sure if it was people actually singing it or if it was an instrument or something.
Because I mean that's very much like doo-wop groups and of like the 40s and below. So it's very much like the Flamingos or the Coasters, whoever, the Drifters, any of the bands coming out.
The Sums.
It's I don't know. It was a vocal group, so there's one person singing and four people doing harms. So I would assume it's just a backing band that Delphi had, that Bob Keane had.
Probably.
Robert Kuhn.
Not even that big of a difference in names, but whatever.
Whatever.
All right, so let's play a little bit of Donna and then maybe talk about it a little bit more or move on. I don't know. We'll figure it out after the song. So here it is, Donna from the Ritchie Valens. Donna from Ritchie Valens. The one and only Ritchie Valens. Love songs on the coast.
Uncle Joe Benson over here.
No, Coast 103.5. Love songs on the coast. All right. So yeah, Donna, do we have anything else on this song?
No.
No, nothing.
No, I know.
All right. So what's your 2B? What do you got? Go.
That was my 2B.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Wonderful. This is fun. What? I don't know. I have no idea.
What? No, come on, let's go, and then Donna. I think that's a 1-2 punch of Ritchie Valens. Yeah, it's crazy because like everybody knows Buddy Holly. Like everybody fucking knows Buddy Holly. And you play a Buddy Holly song and you say, "Oh, hey, this is Buddy Holly." Most people will be like, "Oh yeah, I know this song." 15 times, 20 times maybe. But if you ask somebody, "Hey, what's your favorite Buddy Holly song?" Like nobody's gonna know. Nobody can name a Buddy Holly song. Whereas
you mean Ritchie Valens?
Nobody can also name a Ritchie Valens song. But I swear to God, man, you play somebody O'Donna or Come On, Let's Go, specifically O'Donna mostly.
Or even La Bamba. Come on, man.
That's not a Ritchie Valens song, though.
But, it was popularized by him.
Sure. But, I don't know. But
your hatred for this is ridiculous now.
At some point, people will remember, because they haven't heard it as much, people will remember O'Donna more than they would any. Like, what is your favorite Buddy Holly song?
I don't know. I honestly, what?
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, can you name any Buddy Holly song?
I don't really know Buddy Holly that well. I really, really don't.
if I started
be down to
singing
do a
like
Buddy Holly,
10 songs, you would know every single one of them too.
Probably, but I was never super into 50s rock and roll. I've always liked it and I've enjoyed listening to it, but I've never been super into it. Outside of some Chuck Berry, some Little Richard, like it's just nothing. It's just not. It hasn't been my thing, but I think it's fantastic stuff.
It's just the guy. I don't know. I love Buddy Holly a lot. I really do, and I think he shredded at the guitar. I think he's arguably like one of the greatest guitarists of the 50s because he ripped. And if you listen to a lot of some of his like deeper cuts, and if you've seen him live, like did you watch the Buddy Holly story? Have you ever seen the Buddy Holly story with Gary Busey?
I have not. I have not seen it. No.
Okay, so like the Buddy Holly story, it started Gary Busey before Gary Busey got really weird looking. It was a young Gary Busey, and Gary Busey. It was like I wouldn't say panned, but it was kind of criticized by critics because Gary Busey was like running up and down the stage a lot. And like kind of shredding on the guitar, and everyone's like, "That's not what Buddy Holly did. Buddy Holly just stood there." It's like, no, that's not true. Like if you watch old videos of Buddy Holly, when he got into the rhythm, the groove, he shredded, dude. He took little things here and there and added lead guitar parts to turn them into solos. He ran up and down the stage occasionally. He shredded a lot, and so Buddy Holly is a guy that is kind of like regarded as a rock and roller. But as a Weezer Blue Album rock and roller, right? Just a very subdued, calm, and that's not the case. That's not the case at all. The dude fucking shred. Waylon Jennings was his fucking bass player, for God's sakes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
like, come on, like the dude shredded the guitar. I honestly think that Buddy Holly is the best or one of the best guitarists of the 50s. Honestly,
that's not a bad argument. I mean, that's not a bad argument to make at all.
And this is in comparison with like Chuck Berry, with Johnny B. Goode is arguably one of the most iconic rock and roll guitar riffs of all time. I get it. But Buddy Holly could rip. Like the dude could rip at the guitar.
But he doesn't have the songs, at least that we recognize like Chuck Berry does with Johnny B. Goode.
Like, That'll Be the Day, right? That'll be the day until I die.
Okay,
That'll be the day we'll say goodbye.
Yeah.
And then every day, it's getting closer.
Yeah, okay, I know that song.
These are all Buddy Holly songs. Peggy Sue probably, fucking Rave On, another Wiley Pot. You know a lot of Buddy Holly songs. They're crazy popular.
I mean, we'll eventually do Buddy Holly on the pod, but right now, yeah.
God, he was fucking 22 when he died. For God's sakes.
So I never realized how young he was when he died. I thought he was a little bit older, but
no, the oldest guy was the Big Bopper. He was the old man. He was 28.
What is it, 29? Okay, he's 28, yeah.
The old guy. Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's insane. It's fucking insane. Should we talk about that right now? The day rock and roll died, or the day music died?
What I was going to talk about, and then it leads up to that, was how great of a musician Ritchie Valens was. He wasn't just a guitar player, so he played drums, and he played drums very, very well. And there's limited footage of him actually on a kit, and like you got to really, really search for it. And it's only like clips, and I don't even know if they're real or not. So who knows? But he was on tour with Buddy Holly and just, like Dion and the Belmonts, which is a fucking phenomenal doo-wop group. And I know you know a lot of their songs too, but he was on tour with these groups, and like it was a brutal tour. And instead of like planning out the tour where you would go from city to city to city and it would make sense in like a circular motion, they ended up going to these concert venues, and they would zigzag. They would go from one city and then drive 300 miles the next day to the next city and then go backtrack. It was just a poorly planned trip, and that's kind of like what led them to get on the fateful plane that killed them. But what happened on this trip was that their backing band wasn't always kind of like reliable, so they would switch up. Like Ritchie Valens would play drums on Buddy Holly, and Buddy Holly would play drums for like the Big Bopper, and the Big Bopper would play drums for Ritchie Valens, which is fucking dope.
It's so cool. It's so
like, my God.
Reading about that last tour, which they some people have called the tour from hell or the tour of hell.
Yeah.
Because of there's so many terrible stories from that. I mean, every band member, every guy like had the flu at some point during that tour. And like you said, driving 300 miles south for a day and then driving 100 miles north again and then 50 miles south, like it was just a shit show of an itinerary. And they were playing literally every day. Like they had no days off. They were going in February, the middle of winter in the Midwest, to when it got below 0 temperatures Fahrenheit. And on top of that, they went through multiple buses, no heat on any of the buses, because it kept breaking down. All the buses kept breaking down, and it was a fucking shit show. The whole thing was a shit show. It's insane that even happened.
It's oh my God.
And because of all the people being sick and being delayed and late, they had to fill in for each other. And that is so cool. Like the camaraderie of that as well. Like when you think of it, not just the talent, but the camaraderie that they were all in it together to make probably a shit wage for that tour.
Yeah, they made.
It's insane.
I mean, like Buddy Holly made the most money, and he passed most of that along to like living arrangements, and living arrangements was the bus. And they had just on that Wisconsin trip. I mean, I've never really been to I've never been to Wisconsin, but I know a lot of people that have moved to Arizona from that area, and judging by the temperatures they tell me, there's no fucking way you could do a tour of Wisconsin in a school bus, in an unheated, insulated school bus.
Yeah.
In like 6 feet of snow wherever you go. Like that's what they toured in the 50s, where there wasn't adequate cell phone reception. There wasn't a hostel every,
well, there were
8
there
miles.
were no cell phones.
Exactly. There was nothing. They could do nothing. And like all of the stories that I read and interviews of other people like Waylon Jennings and other people that were on the tour with them, like all they did was essentially like cuddle next to each other and try not to die.
Try not to freeze, yeah.
And during the day, when they had kind of like an off day where they're just traveling, it was always Ritchie Valens and Buddy Holly in the back of the bus throwing down like guitar riffs, trading songs, singing, and just kind of like drinking, but not like you would drink like on a normal tour because, they're still underage. And so they would drink like a little bit. They'd have like 1 bottle of whiskey for 2 weeks between 8 guys. You know what I mean? So it's just God, it was just so like innocent sounding. You know what I mean? It was so innocent. It was so primitive in the way they were approaching their rock and roll music. And they had no fucking idea the impact they will have on like music today. It's just,
I know.
It's unreal. It's unreal like how high on a pedestal these guys are now. And they had no idea when they're living it.
And how many, just bands that they've influenced. You jumping, 3-4 years into the future after they die, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, going into Deep Purple to Zeppelin to, so on and so forth up until now. How many bands have been inspired directly from Buddy Holly and Ritchie Valens? It's insane.
It is. It's
along with Chuck
truly.
Berry and Little Richard and so on and so forth. But
rock and roll almost died in like the 80s. Rock and roll almost fucking, or in the 50s, rock and roll almost died, right? Because Chuck Berry got arrested. Elvis joined the military in the late 50s. Little Richard quit music, don't forget, to become a preacher because he had like this near-death experience. Eddie Cochran, one of the originators of rock and roll, he died. Jerry Lee Lewis married his fucking cousin. And she was 13. He lied and said she was 14. Cousin. And he was like 24.
Fucking matters.
and this dude, Alan Freed, who was a very famous like rock and roll pioneer DJ for a radio station, he got had for payola. The reason why we have laws for payola for radio stations not taking payments from artists and then not disclosing them to the public is because of this guy. And he's kind of like the reason rock and roll got put into the mainstream because he played a lot of rock and roll music, much to the distaste of radio stations to the public. And then he got busted for like taking bribes and like that, like all this stuff in the late 50s, like literally almost killed rock and roll. Like it almost died.
Yeah.
And that's what the man wanted. Rock and roll is anti-man, and the man wanted rock and roll to die. And now we're going to get into the conspiracies of the flight crash. Because there's a lot of them.
What do you got conspiracy? when I was reading about it, I was actually very surprised at how detailed everything was. Like down to the exact moment they left the ground, to the exact moment when they disappeared from eyesight, and so on and so forth. It's crazy how well documented this entire incident was.
Because there's a lot of conspiracies of this. And
what do you got?
So the way I read it, the reason why there's so much detail is because of the conspiracy that arose from the crash, and then they went back later on and kind of like recreated everything and really figured out what happened. And so one of the big things was that Buddy Holly was thrown from the aircraft, right? He was thrown from the aircraft, and he was so far from the aircraft. No, sorry, not Buddy. Big Bopper.
No, it was Big Bopper. Yeah,
I think they were both thrown from the air, but Big Bopper was thrown so far from the aircraft that people thought that he tried to like crawl for help before he died, which kind of like thought, okay, maybe they didn't crash as hard as we thought they crashed. Maybe it was like instead of like a nosedive, maybe it was like a slow descent, and they eased into like a paper airplane, and then he was thrown, because if you're in a nosedive, you're like, there's no way you're surviving that nosedive.
Yeah.
And so that was one reason why people thought there was like a conspiracy, because the Big Bopper has been thrown and there were crawl marks, whatever. That was later turned out to be like not true. There was no crawl marks. He was dead instantly, just thrown from the aircraft.
The second autopsy too. His son had an autopsy done in like 1991.
Yes, very recent.
Yeah, they actually what is it? What's the word? They
exhumed.
Exhumed. Yeah, they exhumed his grave. Yeah, and the second autopsy showed that it was blunt force trauma amongst other things.
Died instantly.
Yeah.
The other one was Buddy Holly had a gun. Buddy Holly had a gun, and the gun accidentally went off and killed the pilot, and the pilot nosedived, and that's how they all died. And I think this one was brought on by Buddy Holly's wife at the time, who had said like, oh, well, Buddy Holly had a gun, and he didn't really know how to use it, and you know, he was young. And this one was, I mean, obviously honestly, I don't know how the fuck they do this, because if you got a plane falling from the sky that slams into the ground and erupts into a ball of fire, like, how do you look at somebody's mushed up head and say, nah, he didn't die from a gunshot? Like, you know what I mean? Is there any head left? Like, how much head is left after a $30,000 or 30,000 foot descent into the ground?
I mean, there's some. I mean, I think if somebody was shot with a gun, you would. I mean, I'm not a forensic person at all, but maybe with a gunshot, the bullet wound would be small enough. It would leave a certain, like, I don't know. I guess it would be small enough to,
it's just silly.
Know that it's not blunt force trauma. I don't know.
But like, I drop a watermelon from 4 feet up and it disintegrates into a puddle of liquid. How the fuck does a brain or a skull stay intact from 30,000 feet?
Well,
it doesn't make any sense.
I think even when they exhume a body, or even when the body is found, they recreate the bones. Like if the bone is, say the femur is broken into 7 different pieces, they're going to reconstruct that bone into one piece. Like they're going to lay it out all flat, and they're going to try to reconstruct the body, the skeleton, or whatever portion. So when you reconstruct it, it should come back as like a perfect puzzle piece. But if somebody has been shot, it's going to come back as a different looking puzzle piece, if that makes sense.
Maybe it's just about time then, because I understand what you're saying, but like what I think is somebody falling from a plane that far, and I mean at that point you're reaching like terminal velocity. You're going 400-500 miles an hour straight into Earth. Yeah. And like if you had a slingshot of somebody's skull and you slammed it into a brick wall at 500 miles an hour, like you recreate that fucking skull and show me what that person looked like before that, and I will be impressed. Because that's how I feel. You know, well, that's how I feel.
I think it's different. Like during, like when it happened, you know, especially in 1959, you know, a plane crashes and you come across all these dead bodies, you're going to assume everybody died from the plane, like blunt force trauma. You're not going to think anything else. And then the rumors start, and then that's why when it was exhumed in 1990 or whenever it was in the 90s, you know, then that's when all the body was all a skeleton. There's nothing left. It's just going to be a skeleton. And then they're able to recreate exactly, they're able to piece together things easier than they were to do in 1959, because that was an actual body.
And again, I'm
flesh and blood and organs and all that shit.
I'm not a forensics guy. I watched a couple episodes of Criminal Minds and SVU, and they make it look so easy. I just can't imagine.
I'm sure it's a very tedious and annoying process.
It could take a week to reconstruct one skull, right? Like this is
I'm sure
probably what's happening. A team of 4 guys reconstructing a skull could take a week.
Yeah, but they're not going to be doing that when the body still has skin and blood and tissue and all that kind of stuff. They're not going to recreate anything like that. I mean, they're just going to like put it back together and then kind of mold it back to, like, say the face is all mangled and torn apart. They're going to put it back together the best they can, and then kind of like, put formaldehyde and all that kind of shit on it.
Like, do you see the plane crash photos? Like what the plane looked like?
Oh yeah, it's fucking gnarly.
Like it looked like just like an engine. Like honestly, it looked like just somebody took an engine and like you could have said, "Oh yeah, this is an engine."
It probably
from
was.
It probably
Corvette.
was
Just
like I don't fucking know.
I mean, the fuselage. I mean, when you think about it too, it was like a 5-passenger plane. I mean, it was really small anyway.
Which means the metal's very thin. Everything's very light.
So most of the plane was probably an engine. So when it crashed, like the fuselage was just fucking ripped to shreds.
Of course, you can't rebuild something like that. There's too many parts that you don't know where they go because they look like other parts. And I feel like that's with the human body. There's a lot of parts on us that we just. I know what a jaw looks like, but I don't know what a fucking thigh looks like compared to a tricep.
But people do. Like that's the thing too. But then also, it's like a puzzle. When you think about it, like if a human body or a wreckage from a plane or a car, you can puzzle piece it back together.
I don't believe so.
To an extent.
I don't.
Why
Especially.
not, why not?
Because I just told you. Because the inner part of your calf. What do you want me to tell you why? Or are you going to tell me why I should not tell you why?
No, tell me why.
Because the inner part of your calf looks the same as your tricep, especially when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, before you have any kind of like scarring on you, before you've hit like the driving age to where you've been in an accident or you've been mountain biking so you have a scar, or before you even grown hair on your legs. I mean, we're talking like smooth 17-year-old skin, smooth 22-year-old skin. Like the difference between a calf and a tricep, especially when you got little chicken legs as a 20-year-old, where your legs are almost the same width as like your biceps are. Like there's to tell the difference between the two, mind you, they're all charred, they're all cut up, they're all burnt up, they all look like shit. I don't believe it. I don't believe you can reconstruct that.
But also but every bone in the body is different.
But you're assuming like these things are still connected to the bone. Like
that's what I'm saying.
Like you're thinking like you reconnect. Like these bodies are chopped up in perfect little pieces that are chopped up.
No, absolutely. No, I
like
agree.
There could be like 10,000 pieces of Buddy Holly stretched out over the desert. Like
I know.
That's silly
I don't
boy
disagree
talk.
with you on that.
No.
But when you go to reconstruct it, when you bring all the body parts together, all the body parts that you can find at least, they have to fit into a place. It's like I said, it's a fucking puzzle. You're rebuilding that puzzle. And that's what it is. And like I said, especially when you have bone involved, the bone can be differentiated. Any bone can be differentiated. You can figure out what it is. Because they're very, very distinct. Yeah, muscle, obviously, and skin is different. But bones are very, very, very distinct. That's why we have dental records. That's how we identify a lot of bodies is with dental records, because they're very specific, and they're very especially specific to individuals.
Well, teeth don't generally like explode and shatter into a million pieces. Like that's why dental records are so easy to do, because when someone gets into a car accident and blows up, their jaw's still sitting there.
Because the teeth are the hardest part
but
of
the rest
body.
of them is not still sitting there. The rest of them is in 50,000 pieces.
I know.
Just because it's a puzzle. I understand your puzzle analogy, because if you have a puzzle that's 10 pieces and I found 8 of the pieces, at least I have a 50% chance of determining where the last 2 pieces go. I get it. Yeah. But no, that's not nearly that easy. You're having a puzzle piece now where
I'm not saying
there's 50,000 pieces, and I
only
know where 10 of those pieces go. No, I don't believe it. I don't buy it.
I never once said it
was easy. You and I have both been duped by Criminal Minds.
I don't watch the show. I think it's a stupid show.
I think it's impossible. I don't think so. That's why people believe like Elvis is still alive. That's why people think Tupac is still alive. That's why people think these things. Is because this stuff is
people
impossible.
Like you.
No, because of people like you. Because you think that, oh, it's easy. That's Buddy Holly. Look, I piece them together. So you look at, and then you get like, oh, I'm Buddy Holly. He like move his arms up and down like he's a puppet.
But why do you think why do you think this Buddy Holly Ritchie Valens conspiracy is real?
Oh no, I don't think this is real at all. I think they all fucking died, like for sure. Like there's no way.
And you're the worst. We just spent like 15 minutes arguing about this.
they fell from a fucking plane, dude. Like you're dead. Come on. Are you kidding? You joking my ass right now?
This is the stupidest fucking tangent ever.
I'm just saying. I call them the season. That's all I can do.
Man. But anyway, yeah. Okay, so what's your big conspiracy? Why were they killed?
Oh no, I don't think they were. I mean,
I'm not saying you think it, but what is this conspiracy? That you're
there's.
talking about?
I mean, this is the man. 50s rock and roll. This is the man. This is three guys. You know, one is Hispanic. The other two are. I think Richard's one was white. The Big Bopper was white. But these are the rock and roll. Like the man did not like rock and roll in the 50s. They for sure didn't like it in the 60s. But the 50s was a time of man. It was a weird time in America, and America was kind of like the focal point of rock and roll, obviously, and because America's the best. And this is maybe it was the man killing him. I don't know.
You never know.
Maybe they got shot down.
Speaking of this kind of stuff, I went down a weird rabbit hole earlier this week with the FBI and what's his name? Oh my God, why am I having a brain fart? The head of the FBI for like 40 years. Hoover.
J.
Edgar Hoover, yeah. I went down this fucking rabbit hole.
Named a building after him.
Well, I mean, there's a lot more with J. Edgar Hoover, and dude, I spent like 3 hours just reading about him and just all this different shit. Dude, he did some fucked up stuff. Like he was fucked. Have you ever read even like a portion of his kind of story?
Honestly, like, the only thing I really know about him is stuff that I've watched from conspiracy shows like X-Files, like fantasy conspiracy shows, honestly. Yeah. Like X-Files and things like that.
The stuff I was reading wasn't even like conspiracy theory stuff. This is like real shit that was happening, that he was doing, that he was caught doing, and the blackmail. And dude, he was a fucked up individual. And this is going from the 1920s until 73 when he died. You know, the amount of shit that he did in that 50 years, and I can only imagine what's happened since then to now. Dude, it's crazy, man, what people can get away with. Like when you have power and money, there's you can get away with anything. Well,
he was never in like I don't know, he was never a president. Like he was never.
No, but he controlled presidents.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you're a president, you're kind of held to a different standard because you're constantly being watched. But when you're somebody behind the president who's not in like an official elected capacity, because I mean, building the FBI at that point, whenever that was like fucking 70s or something, or the
20s.
20s, yeah, that's right. Because
the modern FBI,
70, that's what it was.
Yeah, no, the modern FBI was created by J. Edgar Hoover.
Right,
he made the FBI. Like actually, I think it was like 1931. It was right after the Great Depression.
So when you're like building an entire legislation of government that no one's ever seen before, and especially like after like the gangster era of America, right?
That's a whole nother thing. Oh.
You're like awarded privileges strictly because it's unprecedented. There's no source material to base it off of. So I'm like very curious, because now that you said the thing with like the mafia and shit, I wonder.
Oh man, he was, dude. I mean, from what I was reading, he was so in bed with the mob. Like his career started out going after the mob, and then it got to the point where he kind of laid off of all of that. Like the mob he completely laid off of that and just went after other things. You should really kind of dive into that. Not outside of the conspiracy theory stuff, man. It's really interesting.
What was the thing that there was the counterintelligence thing that he did? What was it? It was called something.
Well, I mean, CIA is completely different. He didn't really do anything CIA wise.
It was by the FBI. The FBI did something, and it was called I actually have a really good computer. I can just like Google what I'm going to say.
Yeah, you could Google things.
Click,
make
click,
things
click,
easier.
click.
But
COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program.
Oh yeah, that was that was him. Yeah, that was him.
Yeah, there we go.
That was J. Edgar Hoover.
But so like stemming back to Ritchie Valens, there's no reason to I don't know, maybe to scoff at the idea that some of the biggest names in rock and roll were assassinated, were shot down, were killed, were murdered.
Yeah.
Because America was not, I shouldn't say America, but like old money America did not want rock and roll to succeed.
Makes sense. I mean, I would not be surprised if there was something more nefarious going on.
They even tried to discredit Elvis after a while, even though, again, Elvis's music, good God, his acting is even worse. But Elvis was kind of like a man of the people. Like he really knew where he came from. He knew that the music he was playing was not his, and he gave credit where credit was due. And it came out later on that he supposedly said he dropped like an N-bomb at some point, and it was never like substantiated. Like it was actually almost all but proven to be false, but it still plagued him for years, and people constantly brought it up. And even like other members that in the black community that knew Elvis very well was like, no, he did not say that. That's not true. He would never say that. I back him. That what he said like never left him, because I think like mainstream politics and old money politics did not want rock and roll to succeed. And it's still like up until like I guess like the 80s, when music really took a shit, like people didn't want rock music to survive. I have a lot more respect for Elvis after this week, to be honest. I've read a lot about Elvis too this week.
Really? I mean, I didn't read anything about Elvis because I just have almost zero interest in him, because I think he's such a hack.
I was really getting into it again. I love 50s rock and roll. It's the bee's knees. It truly is. It's
great.
It's some of the most pure music that like we've ever heard ever, and it's just it came from a place of just like, fuck it. Let's just go for it. Let's just do it. Let's just have a good time. Let's party. And you watch a lot of these old like 50s movies that feature a lot of these old doo-wop groups going into the 50s, and like a lot of the early 50s rock and roll groups. And these are bad movies. They're just shit movies. But you watch them, and like every single one of them they're mixed race. It's blacks, whites, Mexicans. It's everybody in one fucking room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just,
which is pretty unheard of.
It is. It's completely unheard of. And it's just like I don't know when it happened to where, because at some point, like rock music, the 60s specifically, was dominated by like white people. Like white people eventually took over rock music. And I think that happened in like the late 50s. Like all of these things that I mentioned earlier, I think gave way to like white people taking over rock music in the 60s. Because the 50s, like again, like Fats Domino, I think is truly like the king of rock. Absolutely. And Chuck Berry is just the king of the rock star. But dude, I watched so many fucking videos this week too of Chuck Berry just ripping it up on the guitar and doing his little dance.
Chuck Berry is unreal.
Angus Young style on his one leg, where he's like cocked
but even
down.
Like cooler, way cooler.
Oh man,
because Angus Young was such a cock, man, with that schoolboy uniform, and
he was not a cock. Angus Young was dope.
Such a
he was cool.
It's
Get out of here.
way more of a character than, I mean, he is a great guitar player, but way more character than a guitar player. It's like Kiss. They're like the watered down version of Kiss. AC/DC is the watered down version of Kiss. That's what they are.
There was all these interviews too of like people talking to Fats Domino, and they're asking him like, hey, like, you know, this rock and roll thing, and it's like 1955. Now this rock and roll thing's blowing up, but you've been doing it since like the 40s. Are you mad that everyone else is taking credit for your songs? Because like people like Pat Boone, for instance, like Pat Boone made a career out of like redoing other people's songs shittily, just fucking whitewashing them completely and like making a bunch of money off it. That's what fucking Pat Boone did. And Fats Domino was like, nah, music is dope. What they're doing is dope. I love it. I hope they keep doing it. Like that was it. Humble as fuck.
That was a direct quote from Fats Domino.
Yes, humble as fuck. That's what he said. I am humble as fuck. That's what he said. He didn't say as fuck, but he said AF. He said, I am humble AF.
Yeah. I think, no, of course.
Good times. Good times.
I know you kind of want to talk a little bit more about 50s rock and roll, but let's kind of jump back into Ritchie Valens, not Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Valens. So let's get into. We're only on the 2Bs right now. We're on my 2B.
Correct.
We barely even touched this shit. So with that, my 2B is my head. It's the last song on side A.
That was good.
That's how it's.
That's
written.
That's how he says it too, in the song.
I had to be real. Had to be real with this.
No, you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is my number 2. Really, the first thing when I first heard this song, I immediately thought of Little Richard, and then he brings up the song Tutti Frutti, or he brings up the title of that song, and it's like, okay, this makes sense. This was directly influenced from Little Richard. This is probably the most aggressive song he has on this record.
Yes.
And because everything is a little blown out. His vocals are a little grittier, and his amp sounds blown out a bit. Like it's a loud song, and it's a little bit faster than what we're used to hearing from him, which I think it's cool. I think it's really cool. But what do you got on this one?
So like I can't remember what show it was on, but there's a video of Ritchie Valens doing this song on a show.
Mm-hmm.
On like one of the movies I talked about earlier from the 50s, where it's just like shitty fucking movies from the 50s. And God, there's a fucking dude's name that I cannot remember off the top of my head, but it's really good footage of Ritchie Valens playing this song like on the guitar, and it's just in like a dinner setting, and like the band stops playing, and then Ritchie plays, and everyone's like, "Oh, who is this guy? This is fucking kind of good." And like the girls are getting into it, but Ritchie's playing the guitar that you like, the fucking full bodied F cut hollow things,
Gretsch?
dude.
The Gretsch guitar.
Yeah, he's playing those stupid ass guitars, and like he rips it up in this video, and it's fucking cool. It's fucking dope, and this song is absolutely a fucking banger. This song is perfect.
Where does it sit for you?
This is my 4B.
Okay.
4B.
That's good.
4B.
That's good.
Yeah. Whereas the next on La Bamba, I wish. Actually, like I would just run up and take the needle off, because La Bamba is the last song on my record, so I'd put it up. The song's super short though; it's like a minute and a half.
I mean, every song. I think the longest song is 3 minutes long. But
maybe this La Bamba is the first song. I think it's
La Bamba is the first on side B.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah. La Bamba is the first song on side B, and then Oh My Head finishes side A.
My Yed?
I think that My Yed. Oh, that's stupid. That's stupid.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say now. I lost my train of thought, but that's fine. It probably wasn't anything important anyway.
Oh My Head, Ritchie Valens.
Oh My Head, yes.
Who was that guy's name? I'm going as you speak. I forgot. I have a new laptop. I'm gonna Google it real quick.
You're just gonna Google it. So what I was gonna do, I was gonna play the song a bit.
Oh yeah,
and
perfect.
then kind of go into that, and then talk about it a little bit more. So here it is. Oh My Head from the Ritchie Valens. There you go. Oh My Head from Ritchie Valens. And like I said, he really channels his inner Little Richard on this. Everything, the inflection in his voice. Oh, it's so like, Little Richard.
You're just waiting for him to stop and like ba 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 loo ba ba da ba da ba do for it. Like you're waiting for that drop. So
you're totally right.
I found the video. I still can't find what show it's on, but it so like Ritchie Valens is with 3 girls sitting at a table watching Chuck Berry play. And like on the stage. And at some point, Chuck Berry's like, "Oh yeah, like thanks you guys for having me, but check this dude out." And he calls Ritchie up to the stage to play like this song, "Ooh My Head."
And what movie is this from?
It's from a movie from the 50s. I can't remember what it is, and the description on YouTube doesn't say. And I can't send it to you because it's on my computer. I don't. Maybe I don't. I don't.
Send me a WhatsApp. Send it to me through WhatsApp.
We haven't started doing that yet. I don't know how to do that.
Oh my God. I'll do it real quick. Hold on.
I'll keep the tab open. Hold
on. I'll send you a message on WhatsApp right now.
But this this is very much of like the 50s and of the like these movies that came out in the 50s where you have somebody that wrote a cool song, and then now you want to write a movie around how to incorporate that song into like the 40-minute mark to make an hour-and-a-half movie. And that's what this looks like. But yeah, this song is clearly like a. When I say like rip off, that's because most, if not all, of 50s rock and roll is a rip off of rhythm and blues, of blues music, of gospel music. But yes, this is very much of Little Richard, and I swear you're waiting for him to go into that bop bop a loo bop, that breakdown into the tutti frutti part. So this is very much Little Richard song, which is fine because that's what we were doing in the 50s.
I really like the drum shuffle too. That sounds like a train. It sounds like a fucking train going along. That I can't even try to do it with my mouth. I'm not.
No, do it. You almost did it.
But yeah, I think this song is it's absolute perfection. That's what it is, and his guitar solo is so fucking loud in the mix.
Yeah,
it just adds to how abrasive of a song this is, and I understand why they kind of sequenced the song on this record this way, because you can't put this at the front of the record. Like, this has to be at the either the end of side A or B, and putting it, you can't be doing it on side B because that's pretty much all covers. So putting it here is like the only appropriate place.
Yeah.
But damn, man, that is quite the fucking banger. So do you want me to play any of what you sent me?
No, it's just
just
for your
reference
eyes
for
only.
later.
It's for your eyes only.
Yeah, okay.
That's
Reference for later. Okay, got it. So yeah, Oh My Head from Ritchie Valens is my 2B. So what do you got for your 3B?
In a Turkish town. In a Turkish town.
You know what?
I hate how cheesy this is. I hate how goofy this is. But come on, come on.
I mean, it's my 3B as well. It
Dude,
is my
when
3B
he drops
as well.
in with it in a Turkish town.
It's so stupid.
It's like molasses spilling out of your mouth. It's so good.
I will say, I mean, like really, really sitting down and listening to this song, the only thing that makes this song sound kind of, world sounding or exotic sounding is the bell. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, everything else is typical Ritchie Valens, but that one singular bell that plays like a metronome through the entire song is what makes the difference on this song.
Yeah.
Has a completely different feel to it.
The fact that he says the word Turkish.
Well, that too, yeah.
But it's just like, if you take the word Turkish out and put like New York or any states bound city, like nobody would care.
True.
And it's funny because I have the vinyl in my hand, like the 59 version, because I have an OG pressing of it. No big deal. The font is the same for all tracks except for this one, and this one has like a little, I guess, like a Middle Eastern flair to it, to like the font writing. And it's like it's begging, it's pathetic, it's so dumb, it's so cheesy.
So I'm holding my actual vinyl too, my repress from like a couple years ago. Yeah, mine has just the typical writing, but
So
what does the back of yours look like? The back of your record look like?
Above your R in Turkish Town, is there no like dots or anything?
No, nothing.
Oh god.
It clearly is like a repress. I mean, on one side of the back of the jacket, it tells like kind of a history of Ritchie Valens, and then on the bottom right, it shows the original liner notes of what was written on the original liner notes. But this is like so clearly a repress. It's definitely not anything old, but yeah, I would love to have an OG press though. Like that is so fucking rad.
Back to Jimmy Fallon's.
Jimmy Fallon's. So we talk. So what song are we on? I'm so lost right now. In a Turkish Town.
Yeah,
in a Turkish Town.
In a Turkish Town.
So let's play a little bit of it because I want to talk also more about the instruments and lyrics too. So here's a little bit of In a Turkish Town from the Ritchie Valens. There you go, In a Turkish Town from Ritchie Valens. Yeah, man. Like I was saying, the thing that really makes this sound more of a world sounding song is that bell. That's it. Otherwise, this is just a straight up like doo-wop, 50s rock and roll song. That's it. It's so weird how one thing can make it so different. Whatever though. Good stuff.
I mean, it's a complete coincidence just on my end too. It's like I've seen in various TV shows and movies, just the what do you call it? Like a simple twist of fate, I guess, like the butterfly effect. One small thing leads to dire consequences. One being like Buddy Holly wanting to do his laundry. Like the urban legend goes, the reason why Buddy Holly died is because he couldn't stand having dirty underwears. He was
I've never heard that.
They're on tour for. Dude, you watch now. Like after I say this, there's a couple other things too that people mention that you may pick up on in various shows and movies super quick. But like the reason why they died is because Buddy Holly couldn't stand having dirty drawers. So, and he chartered that plane for like a good amount of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
it was
I
like
saw
it was a last minute thing, and he couldn't fucking stand. I mean, obviously there's a lot of different factors. Much like the reason why we were late on our plane coming home from Europe was because you had to take a shower in the morning.
Well,
I mean, but like
it
you
wasn't my
understand.
fault, but we also missed like 2 trains on the way there. But that's fine.
But you understand we would not have missed those trains had we been on time for those trains had you not taken a shower in the morning.
Had we woken up earlier.
Correct. Yes.
Had we woken up earlier.
So you do understand like the silliness of it all, but you also do understand like, you know, where people come from with these crazy theories. But anyway, like the Buddy Holly dirty laundry, had he not wanted to get clean laundry. But like another one is Constantinople, the Byzantine Empire. It fell because someone left a gate open through that fateful battle to let everybody come in, to let the Turks come in and like destroy everything, really. And I think I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting that he had a Turkish town song and this whole twist of fate thing that I've heard multiple times throughout my movie going career. I didn't really grow up on movies, but I've been watching movies a while. I thought that was interesting. Again, makes no difference to anybody else except for me, but I want to throw it out there. Have you never heard that? Like the reason why the Byzantine Empire fell is because someone let the gate open?
I don't think I have. Honestly, I don't think I have.
I mean, obviously, like the Turks were just completely outmatched. Like they were their numbers were greater. They were going to fuck them up anyway. They had better cannons, weapons. It was going to happen anyway. But someone supposedly left a gate open and allowed them to like overrun whatever the wall was called. I'm sure friend of the pod, historian buff Justin's gonna be like, "Oh, it's fucking called this wall." I don't know what it was called, but. Yeah, somebody left a gate open, allowed the Turks in, and that's the reason why like the Byzantine Empire fell. The same reason that Buddy Holly died because he wanted clean underwear.
Clean underwear. Is it Byzantine or is it Byzantine? I think it's Byzantine.
I don't know. Maybe friend of the pod Justin will also educate me on the proper pronunciation of the.
I think it's Byzantine.
Well, you never heard of the gate, so why the fuck would I trust your judgment on anything?
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
I'm not gonna argue with you on that.
Not that I give a fuck anyway. I mean, what are they doing for me lately, huh?
You're an idiot.
Right.
And I think going back to this song in particular too, this is one of the few moments where the guitar and bass are really intertwined very well with one another. They're kind of playing along with one another rather than one playing over the other. Like it's almost like a back and forth between the two of them, which I thought was really cool on this one.
Yeah,
lyrically though, I think it's kind of lame, but
no, it's stupid. It's silly boy talk. Let's get into how. Okay, so did you listen? So he has 2 albums and a live album, really, right?
Oh, Ritchie Valens does. Yeah. No, well, I mean, the second album is like half finished stuff and half demo, so it's not like a real second album.
I mean, like, so his first album came out after he died, so Ritchie Valens never even got to see an album release. It was all released after he died. Yeah, the second album came out, a lot of kind of unfinished stuff, touched up stuff in the studio. The real kicker was the third album, or the live album that he did at Pacoima Junior High School. Did you listen to that one?
I didn't listen to that. No, I wanted to. I didn't get a chance to.
So, like, it's not good by, like, any aspect. Like, the first half of it's live. The second half of it is just unused shit that they were just putting out to make a little bit of money. And even the first half, they threw on Come On, Let's Go, but they put out a demo version that doesn't even sound like Come On, Let's Go as we know it. So it's essentially just like 3 or 4 songs ending in La Bamba. But like what's really cool about this is that not only is this possibly, if not the first live rock and roll album of all time.
Oh yeah. I did read that.
But it's also like hearing these. This is his middle school. It's not a high school. This is his middle school. Like that just shows you how young he was when he fucking died. Is he went back to his middle school to perform a show. Most people go back to their high school. Nobody ever goes back to the middle school. That's how young he was when he died.
Only like halfway through his high school career.
Exactly.
Like-
He was 14 when he really kind of like got noticed, and then he was like 15 when he eventually said goodbye. So all he
Yeah.
really knew was his friends in middle school. And so he went back to his middle school, and it's kind of cute because you can kind of, it's endearing. You can hear like the opening of each track. It's like some girl, and she's like, "Oh, Ritchie, like, do you mind playing Summertime Blues?" Which is not even a Ritchie Valens song. It's an Eddie Cochran song. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll play it. That's cool." And it's just him and a drummer. That is it. And the drummer does really nothing. The quality's horrible. And the opening track is just an introduction by Bob. And he's like, "Yeah, the quality's really bad, but we didn't know what was going to happen. So we didn't have like professional quality here. This is what we got. Sorry."
Well, I think it was, from what I was reading too, I think it was recorded from like a student. Like a student brought their tape recorder
That was it.
and recorded it, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't even like an adult, a teacher or anything. It was a fucking student.
And nobody even knew it existed. Like nobody even knew it existed
Yeah,
until
for
like a
years and
year.
years and years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people
It's
were
pretty
just
wild.
people were calling in constantly, "Where the fuck we want more Ritchie Valens?" And someone was like, "Yeah, I recorded that Pacoima thing. So check it out."
So I didn't really see anything. I didn't look too hard into it, but the cover of the album we're doing, the Ritchie Valens record. So the cover, it looks like he's playing in front of like a fucking stadium. Like, because the picture on the cover is him in the forefront, and then in the background it's all blurred, but it looks like he's playing to like a packed stadium. But I don't think he ever played anything remotely that big.
No.
So I don't like that. I really, because he primarily just played clubs at the most, at the biggest were clubs that weren't even probably packed.
I almost think like, so like I have looked it up before, and I almost think like that's not supposed to be people. That's supposed to be like a glitter background. It's like a backdrop rather than like a stadium. That's what I think. I didn't look it up this week either, but I have done it before, and I think that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like just a backdrop of glitter, but in doing so, it's, you know, like ostensibly going to look like a bunch of people pixelated and
you immediately think
out of focus. So I think it's a way to be like, oh no, that's not at a live performance. That's just a backdrop, but like in a subtle way, trying to trick us into thinking that he was bigger than he was.
That's probably what it was, honestly.
And like honestly,
Has to
that cover, dude, he is so ugly on that cover. Oh, just dude, an ugly ass 17-year-old.
Which we already touched upon that.
Yeah.
His appearance. Okay, so do we have anything left on In a Turkish Town?
No, we're
right.
fuck, man.
So your 4B was, what was it? Donna, right?
No, it was ooh my head. Ooh, or you said ooh.
Oh,
My head.
Ooh, my head. All right. So La Bamba is my number 4. Is my 4B. So what do you got for your 5B?
I like Boney Maroney.
Boney Maroney, a cover. You like a cover, huh?
I like Boney Maroney, but a close one would also be Bluebirds. I like Bluebirds a lot too.
So Bluebirds was the only song that did not make it as a banger for me.
Oh wow, okay.
I thought Bluebirds was such a run of the mill song. Like there was nothing memorable about this song at all.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, unless you have something. I mean, I got nothing on this one really.
I mean, the second half I think is weaker than the first half,
Oh, for sure.
and I think that just stems from also I know they're almost all covers, if not one is just co-written by somebody else. So I'm always going to gravitate towards the first half that he wrote mostly. So I don't know, given that, but I was more so going along the line with the guy that wrote the original version of that, the Bluebird song.
Ursula Hickey,
Yeah, dude, the
Ursula
guy's so
Hickey.
cool looking. He was so cool.
I guess. But then reading about it, or reading more about him, he didn't really do anything. I mean, his two biggest songs were when Ritchie Valens did this song, and then the Beach Boys did this song as well. But outside of that, I mean, he didn't really write anything, but he was still inducted into the Rock and Roll, or not the Rock and Roll,
The
the
Rockabilly.
Rockabilly Hall of Fame. Yeah, the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. I don't even know what that is, but
Oh, it's the
Never
Hall
heard
of
of
Fame,
it.
like rock and roll, but it's for rockabilly music.
oh, okay, yeah, that's
It's
fun.
similar.
That's fun.
Think of like hip hop rock and roll Hall of Fame, but without the rock and roll or hip hop.
It's so
That was a dope
dumb.
song. Okay, that was a good song, but that's fine.
Well, I mean, what do you? I mean, what stands out for you on this one?
Well, Boney Maroney is a better. I mean, Boney Maroney. We can go
Boney,
into.
yeah, Boney Ramone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that song is actually really good.
Is that not a
And that
a
guy's
B
story
for you?
No, that is. It is. It's a it's my 7B. Boney Maroney is my 7B. And the guy's backstory I thought was
Larry
interesting.
Williams.
Yeah,
right?
he
That's
was
Larry Williams.
Yeah, Larry Williams. He died very young. He died at 44 by suicide.
Supposedly.
But supposedly, yeah, there's been a lot of conspiracies behind that. But he was very, into the drug scene, prostitution and all that kind of stuff. He had a close relationship with Little Richard, which became sour at a certain point, which actually supposedly turned Little Richard's life around, and he became a preacher after that, and which, come on, don't really buy. But yeah, no, he was apparently he was a pretty crazy guy, and he died very young. But no, this is a really good song, and the lyrics they're just stupid. they're so silly about like loving like a really skinny girl and not caring what other people think, and what a difference it makes from society nowadays. It'd be the complete opposite.
I love referring to her as Boney Maroney.
Yeah,
she's
Boney
as skinny
Maroney.
as a stick of macaroni. So
so
good.
It's so 3-year-old. It's so like whatever Blue's Clues or whatever show is popular now with toddlers. That's what it is.
But yeah, there's nothing deep here whatsoever, and it's just
Mm-hmm. But it's a really good song. It is
cute,
a
I
really,
guess.
really good song.
Yeah.
Should I play a little bit of it?
I mean, whatever you want to do, kid.
No, this is your pod. What do you want me to do?
We are. No, that's fine.
How many bangers do we have left?
I mean, we could talk about this entire album, and there's so much other stuff too. We got to reel it in at some point.
I mean, I feel like we've played all the big ones.
Yeah, all the stuff that are
Right?
really memorable have been played. That's fine. My top
Outside
four,
of like
I'm
That's
good.
My Little Susie. Like that's really the only one we haven't played. That is his song,
Yeah, which is
right?
well, I think he co-wrote it with his boy.
Well, he
over
co-wrote
there.
it, yeah.
But yeah,
But I mean, it's not a straight up cover.
and I think that one's cool because it's a misprint on the original versions. Like they fucked it up. It's I Got a Gal Named Sue on the original versions that I have
Yeah.
in my hand right now because I have an OG press.
That's
No
so
big
cool.
deal.
Okay, yeah, keep rubbing it in. That's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
So I mean that's cool. And I think it's a banger of an opening too. I think it's a really good song to open the record. It drives hard. It kind of like it's like a thesis statement, like we always say. Like it's a good way to get you into what this album is going to be about. And then it drops within a Turkish town, which is the opposite of what you would think is going to happen. And then it comes back in with "Come On and Let's Go." Like it's like the sequencing of this album is just up and down. It's like a roller coaster.
But it makes it exciting. It makes
I know.
it very, very
it's
exciting.
so fucking good. And then after
When
"Come
I-
On, Let's Go" is Donna. Like it's just, what are you doing to me?
And even with this song, That's My Little Susie, I mean, it's obviously it's my 6B, but it doesn't have anything that sets it apart from the other songs like Donna and Turkish and whatever, but it's just like a straight up good rockabilly dance number, as some might say. And I feel like this is one of the only songs on the record that has a lot of palm mutes. You don't hear a lot of palm mutes coming from Ritchie Valens, except in this song. He does it a lot, and it's so crisp, and it just sounds so nice and pleasant. I really like that a lot. The palm mutes are what really, really got me on this one. Even the drummer kind of ripped it up a little bit. He had a lot of cool stuff going on this one. But then after this, yeah, it's very up and down, but in all the best ways, for sure.
I think like the personnel on this album too is just the house band of Delphi Records too. I don't think it was anybody super noteworthy. I think it was just whoever was the studio musician drummer for Delphi.
Yeah, I didn't see anybody that had much of a history outside of Valens.
For Robert
But-
Kuhn.
But then also, going to Delphi Records, I mean, I thought his label was pretty cool and kind of what he stood for, and he was very much like the anti-hero to record labels, where he just like, if you want to record something, let's make a quick deal and record something, I'll put it out, and then you're done. There's no contract.
He was kind of
which
like
I thought it was cool.
He was kind of like an early Steve Albini. Like he was just, let's get our shit done, call it a day. I want you to have as much creative control as possible, but I'm still going to make a little bit of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's why I kind of was upset of the casting of the guy who played Bob Keane, is because that guy's just, everything I've seen him in is just an anti-hero, like bad guy. But like Bob Keane or Robert Kuhn is not like, he wasn't a bad dude.
Yeah, he seems like he was very much into Valens, and I mean he knew that Valens was going to be huge. I feel like he really did, but he really gave everybody an opportunity and a chance. I really liked his story. Like, I mean, it's not like a super in-depth story. I didn't go super into it, but the stuff that I did read I thought he was really, really cool. And then was it him? Like he quit the music business for like in 1965, and he became like a burglar alarm salesman. Like he started an alarm company like in 1965 to sell only to like musicians and like celebrities. And he did that for a long time. And then he reopened Delphi when the La Bamba movie came out in 1987. He reopened that label for like 10 years and signed a couple new acts, but then like re-released all the Valens stuff, re-released a bunch of other stuff as well because of that boom after that movie came out. But yeah, he became a fucking alarm salesman.
Yeah,
like 1965.
Dude, it's just crazy. I don't know. He's kind of a cool guy. A lot of other cool like people that were on the Delphi record label, and I don't know. I didn't read anything negative about him except that he worked with Sam Cooke, and Sam Cooke turned out to be a douchebag. So
did he? I don't know much about Sam Cooke, but
yeah, Sam Cooke's a guy that is so revered by the music industry and anybody that likes soul and R&B, but he got killed by a motel owner because he tried to rape some fucking girl and then tried to beat the shit out of like the hotel owner. So she shot him in the face and the chest, and he died. And everyone like called into question the person that shot him, and he's just not a good dude.
I've never heard of any of this. I mean, I know the name Sam Cooke, but I didn't know any of that.
Yeah, he's an asshole.
Oh.
But I mean, he had a fucking fantastic voice.
Oh fuck! All right, so back to Ritchie Valens, another fucking
dude. Back to our golden boy, Ritchie, baby. I love Ritchie.
Ritchie, baby.
Come on.
Should we play a little bit of That's My Little Susie, or what do you want to do? Should we talk about more? Or do you want to wrap it up?
We either go on for another hour about the history of rock and roll in the 50s, or we can just wrap it up. Either way, I'm equally happy doing both.
I think we should wrap it up. I mean, I think we're exactly 2 hours in right now.
I literally could go on for like another hour, 2 hours, just talking about rock and roll in the 50s.
No, I know.
I'll do rock and roll in the 50s pre-Elvis, just up until like 55.
But we'll have to save that for another artist, like Fats Domino and whoever, you know.
Ain't that a shame?
I mean, I've been wanting to do Little Richard for a little while, so it would be fun to get into a Little Richard episode. But okay, so let's wrap it up. Let's give our final thoughts, and then we'll give our rating of this record from our world famous 3-point rating system, where 3 is a perfect album, 2 is a good album you're going to continue to listen to, 1 is a bad album but give it a shot, and 0 is the worst thing you've ever heard. A trash fire, some might say. So what do you got, Jeff? Go.
So, I mean, I'm going to do one of those things that I've only done a couple times. I don't do it very often because it's stupid and I don't like it. But I'm going to give this 2 different ratings. I'm going to give it like my objective rating and a subjective rating.
You're going to give us the Justin rating.
Well, yes. Okay, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it the JM. I'm gonna give it the JM. I'm gonna give it the JM.
The JM rating.
The JM, because I want to say his last name in case he gets mad.
But just say JM rating. Say JM rating.
I'm gonna give it the JMR. So
the JMR. Yeah. Okay.
On the one hand, like this album is it's not great. It really is not great. You put it up to Buddy Holly's like Ray Vaughan stuff. You put it up to the Big Bopper. I mean, Big Bopper wasn't that great, to be honest. But you put it up to like Chuck Berry's, Dozen Berries, Little Richard stuffs, Eddie Cobb. Like it goes on and on and on. This is not like the greatest. I don't think Ritchie Valens is like the great. I think Buddy Holly is again the greatest guitarist of the 50s. I don't think Ritchie Valens has the greatest voice. I think there's just a lot of things that he is just okay to good at. And so, given that, he's writing a lot of songs that are really, really good, but he was just too young to be able to write a full album. and that's not his fault because he died super early. But I can't give him more credit than what's on this album, because the second half, starting with La Bamba, is just not that great. It really just not. It's not that great. That first half is fucking perfect, like beyond perfect. And again, Come On, Let's Go is my favorite rock and roll song of all time. But the second half is a little lackluster. So like my objective rating, this is like a 2.25 for sure. Like this is solid rock and roll music. This is from a guy that is breaking barriers. And again, coming out of Pacoima, like anybody that doesn't even know where the fuck Pacoima is probably wouldn't be able to pronounce Pacoima. And like, who the fuck cares where Pacoima is? Because that's just desert.
Who gives a
Los
fuck about
Angeles.
Who gives a fuck about the San Fernando Valley, right?
Dude, really? My God. Fuck out of here, dude. I don't care. It's just like...
That's coming from fucking Orange County.
It's just desert
It's such
Los
a dick
Angeles.
thing.
It is.
It's such
I don't
a
care.
dick thing for us to say.
It's fucking shit traffic. It's a... Fuck that. I don't care. I don't care. But, I mean, like, just like Pacoima, that San Fernando Valley area in itself is just rich in history of having... like land taken from them by the indigenous people. I think the Tongvas, is that who it is? The Tongva?
I'm not sure.
I think it's a Tongva tribe, whoever it is, was taken from them. And I mean, there's a lot of history in Los Angeles of white people taking things from other people. I mean, look.
It's terrible.
Look at the Dodger organization, how they built the fucking first stadium. That's fine.
Oh, that's a whole nother like discussion right there.
But it's cool to see this kid kind of come up and start something that I don't know, that laid groundwork. You know what I mean? That laid groundwork, and that's cool because we may not have had a Carlos Santana, and if we didn't have a Carlos Santana, like fuck, man, I don't know if I want to listen to like cool ass psychedelic music in the 70s and shit. I don't know. I don't know if I want to. So I get like the iconicness of Ritchie Valens. I get it. Objectively, I'm doing 2.25. Subjectively, though, like, I don't know. Even La Bamba, I pretend like I hate it so much, but I listened to this song so much growing up. And like every single fucking party I went to, every quinceañera I went to, every family gathering I went to, every uncle I saw get way too fucking drunk sang La Bamba before, he got choked out by the other cousins. And so it's fun. It was fun. I like it's fine. I would probably give this a 3, honestly. Like subjectively, I'd probably give this like a 3. It is just so goddamn good. I love Ritchie Valens. I love his story. It is tragic, but we love tragedies. That's why Romeo and Juliet is the most popular Shakespeare play. We love tragedies, baby. As humans, we love tragedies. We do.
What does Matt Skiba say in Black Rain?
Tragedy.
Wait, what's the next line? Erase my memory.
Ugh.
That's a terrible song.
That's like one of the worst songs. Well, except for that little drum part that comes in. That's kind of cool.
No,
but
it's not. There's like some terrible shit on that record. But anyway, yeah, continue. I'm sorry. So you gave this
that's all I got. An aggregate of like 2.6, I guess. 2.5.5. 2.5.5. Does that make sense?
All right.
An IP address here.
I know, right? All right. So my final thoughts. I'm not as big into the rock and roll thing as you are. I've always really liked it and enjoyed it, and I love this whole. I love watching movies and TV shows from this era. I think it's just so fascinating, and just this part of history was very, very interesting, and this is a huge part of that history. And him being half Mexican, half Indian, Native American, I should say, was huge, and his influence was monumental. I don't know, man. I don't have anything bad to say about this record. I think it's every song is great. All but one song are a banger, and I can't give this a perfect 3 because that latter half, it's not as good because they're covers, and I just wish we could have heard more of Ritchie Valens, and it sucks, but that beginning, the first side, man, it's just unbelievable how good those songs are. But with that being said, I'm going to have to give this one a 2.5 out of 3 because of that second half. and had to even live like another year, fucking year,
dude.
and put out
That's
a
it.
proper and literally put out a proper full length that was all of his own music, it could easily have been one of, if not the greatest record of all time. I really honestly believe it. Because at 17, writing those first 4 or 5 songs is absolutely unreal. Like it's really, really, really phenomenal how mature, not just his voice, but his songwriting was at the time. I can't believe it. I just can't fucking believe it. But yeah, that's
he wasn't that far off from like Buddy Holly's first album either. Like Buddy Holly's first album was in the late 50s, like a year before this one came out.
So he was out of it. I mean, he was already into his 20s, which is still very fucking young.
But like Buddy Holly's first album came out in like 1958, and then Ritchie Valens, they died in 58, and then Ritchie Valens released in 1959. So it's like he was only so far away from Buddy Holly's first album. But Buddy Holly blew up so much quicker, just so much faster. So you're right, like fucking even 6 months. Give Ritchie Valens 6 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like things could be so much different.
It could have been. I mean, it still boggles my mind every time I think about it, when just knowing that he only was around for 8 months. His professional career was only 8 months. That's it. That's all. That's insane to me. It's absolutely insane to me. So yeah, 2.5 pretty much just because of the covers on the latter half.
That's fine.
Great stuff. I'm totally into it, and I can't wait till we do like another rock and roll band like Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, which I can't believe we've never done Chuck Berry, right?
We have done Chuck Berry.
Did we? Oh, we did. You're right. We did. But whatever. We'll do something, I don't know, sometime in the future. But yeah, thank you all for listening to the podcast. Go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, give us 5 stars. You know the drill. Have fun with that. And thank you all for listening. Once again, yeah, thank you. And that's it. That's all.
That's all. Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly. We both said it.
We both watched La Bamba, the movie about Ritchie Valens, starring Lou Bega. Not Lou Bega. What was his name?
What is it?
Who is Lou Bega? Lou Bega is the fucking
Lou Bega's
Mambo number 5. Yeah. Lou Diamond Phillips. Why did I say Lou Bega? Oh
I
my
don't know.
god, that's so good.
I don't know.
Yeah, starring Lou Bega, and like making a bunch of money off it. That's what fucking Pat Boone did. And Fats Domino was like, nah, music is dope. What they're doing is dope. I love it. I hope they keep doing it. Like that was it. Humble as fuck.
That was a direct quote from Fats Domino.
Yes, humble as fuck. That's what he said. I am humble as fuck. That's what he said. He didn't say as fuck. He said AF. He said, I am humble AF.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, of course.